Hello, everyone. We've been live for, it says 17 seconds. Welcome to Krackle Comics, the show about weekly comics and comics. That was a horrible intro. I'm Dan, and I'm joined by
Mike, and by nowhere was that 17 seconds when it started, because I'm now just at 20.
Well,
Mine is 28.
Mine says 37. What the hell?
Ooh, this isn't good.
No.
So StreamYard, figure it out. It doesn't matter. My name is Vincent.
Here's for an audio rip.
And I'm going to do a haul segment.
Yes.
So I've got two books. One is not very interesting at all. And I think I may have shown one of these off in a previous haul. I can pick it up off the table. So here is another Uncle Scrooge and Donald Duck book, Don Rosa. Good classic stuff. These are the good Duck comics. They're actually not the good Duck comics. That's Karl Barks. They're also good, but that's the thing. Never mind. Like one or maybe two of these are out of print, and so I'm currently going insane. Now, something that's actually interesting, and that Mike and Dan might find interesting, is that I picked up this zine, and I guess on the spine it just says Comic Convention Programs. And so what this is it's a zine that reproduces the covers of like early comic book convention programs, and it goes from 1964. It says allegedly through like 2013, but I don't know if that's the case. And so the first one in here, I believe, is the first ever Comic-Con, which is this cover, this Steve Ditko Spider-Man sketch from the 1964 New York Comic-Con. And then you have another early con, which was also hosted in New York, is called Academy Con. And eventually you have these EC fan added conventions, because EC Comics, EC fandom was some of the early passionate fandom. And then you get to a certain point, it looks like the first San Diego Con on this list is 1980. But I think the first San Diego Con may have been 69, or at least a progenitor of it. And there's ones in Detroit. Detroit had a big fandom thing. Let me see if I can find some cool examples. So the Academy Con 1967, I have no idea who drew this, but it's like Marvel and DC characters shaking hands and stuff. And then there's a bunch of Kirby stuff. Here's the Disneyland Convention, 1971, with the Mr. Miracle. And here, the Comic Art Convention. So in 72, they had Vampirella. And then 73, I'm not actually that familiar with that. It's some kind of underground comic. And then 74, they have that original Joe Simon Captain America sketch. And then a Kirby Silver Surfer. And a Joe Kubert Sergeant Rock. And welcome to Miami Con #1, Jack Kirby thing on top of a hotel. Here's a 75 San Diego, Who Lies in Their Spirit. It's fun stuff. It's kind of weird historical artifact. So that's that. My eclectic haul for the week. And now we are going to talk about comic books.
All right. So the retro issue this week is Captain America Volume 3, number 25, written by Dan Jurgens, art by Andy Kubert. And before we even get started here, I can't say enough how much I love Andy Kubert's art. It's really, really awesome. The colors in this book are really great. Just an overall eye-catching issue for sure. So we open to Nick Fury escaping capture in a jungle until he is eventually caught by a group of bad guys. We don't get a lot of information about them. We get a nice splash page in the beginning of this issue with Nick Fury kind of holding up, like pushing up something in the water, which is really cool. Really awesome art there by Kubert. So eventually, Nick Fury gets captured, and back in New York, Cap impressively busts up a hostage situation in I guess, like a bank or something. And again, just some really good art sequences and stuff like that. So really awesome there. And just opening up, introducing ourselves to Cap. Then Cap is kind of going through the city. We get him jumping down, swinging on a flagpole, and this whole time he's being stalked by these shield agents who end up meeting up with him, and Dugan and Falcon end up kind of meeting up and talking about this one African American general who was kidnapped and exploited for his secrets, specifically in regards to like a supply of anthrax that was apparently like stolen a few days after this guy's supposed capture. And Cap and Falcon are tasked to go to Idaho to find out, where the last whereabouts are of this general who went missing. And as they're going through Idaho, we get some good sequences of Cap and Falcon just kind of catching up with each other. Cap ends up taking out a Walkman type of thing, and it turns out it's actually like a Stark like Walkman type of CD player, which I thought was kind of funny. Pretty clever, little dig in there into Stark tech. And we get a nice little splash page that recaps Cap's origin, which all of us here know pretty well. And just as they're kind of like, just as we're reminiscing in Cap's history and stuff, both the two of them are attacked by these Nazis. They go underwater, they fend off the Nazis, and then they're actually shot at by with a gas missile by none other than the hate monger. And that's kind of where the issue ends. Cap and Falcon end up passing out, and we get a nice little splash page of hate monger, which is really cool. I'm excited to I really want to read this run now. It seems like it's really awesome. I know I have some of this stuff previously collected in trade, so we'll see. But this is definitely one of the better retro issues that we've read in a while. So, yeah. What do you guys think?
I don't think it's one of the better ones you've read in a while. It's like kind of a nothing issue for me. It's fine. It's all right. Andy Kubert's pencils are good, but it's nothing special.
I think it's pretty special.
Right?
Yeah. So this is January 2000. So technically, it would have come out still in the 90s, and we kind of have a little bit of that feel. This is the very first issue from the Dan Jurgens run, which, though there's like a fill-in or two or something like that, it directly follows the Mark Waid run, which is what Dan was referring to, stuff that he already has. And Kubert has actually been drawing this book since like issue 7 or something like that. So he's not new. He's continuing. Yeah, I think the art's great. The Cap on his motorcycle, that early splash page, is one of my favorite. Or I don't want to say one of my favorite, Cap pages, but it's a really great page with his motorcycle in the air. And I like the moment where the old man recognizes him from the war. That's like a very cliche, like Captain America thing, but I think it's handled really well here. It's not in your face, though. The fact that spirals him into like a dumb, like, oh my God, I miss Bucky for like half a page is kind of dumb because it doesn't even go anywhere at all. It's just like, oh, I remember Bucky and I'm sad for 2 panels. Though I think later on when he's listening to the music, the way that Jurgens uses that as a excuse to give like basically a 1-page montage recap of Cap's whole origin and some of his history, I thought was pretty good, or it was handled well. There's also some continuity stuff here, which is kind of fun, and this is where like it still feels like it's kind of the 90s, because Cap and Falcon are like, oh shit, Nick Fury's alive? I thought he was dead. And they mentioned the Punisher, and that's referring to the Over the Edge crossover from 1996, where the Punisher is brainwashed to kill Nick Fury. And I guess, for 4 years, no one, or at least, lots of characters thought that Nick Fury was genuinely dead. It's not like a fantastic or anything like that, but I think this whole volume of Captain America Volume 3, which I think runs 50 issues or so. It's about half Wade and half Jurgens. I think it's really underrated. It's kind of been forgotten because you kind of have, I feel like a lot of people, you kind of gloss over from like a certain point in Grunwald, and then you go all the way to Brubaker, which is kind of the thing with a lot of books. That's the reality. You have one prominent run and you go to the other prominent runs, but like the mid-tier, still really great runs kind of get lost in time to a lot of readers. And I think this chunk is really good. And it's really good in comparison too, because immediately following this volume is when you had the Marvel Knights take on Captain America, where it was like, initially it was like a 9/11 response, and then it was like an origin retcon where the government purposely froze him in ice. And then it had like 5 different writers. And then for a short period, you simultaneously had Christopher Priest doing Captain America and Falcon, and that book just fell apart. I'll stop talking now. The one thing is there's one line in this issue that you'll see like highlighted on the wiki, and I think it's a really great like Cap line pulled out of isolation. He says, 55 years after the war, and I'm still fighting guys with swastikas. And of course, you could have him say that line in, Captain America number 21 or whatever from Ta-Nehisi Coates next week, and you just have to make it 75 years. But I think it's a fun issue. It's very much, it feels like classic Marvel to me through a late 90s flavor.
I agree.
I think it's fine. It's not special. Like, it's good. It's a good first issue.
This issue's not special either.
I didn't even read it.
Wait, Dan, are you still on Batman?
Hell no.
I was gonna say, so why are you saying this issue's not special? I mean, it's not.
Exactly, that's what I thought.
Because I think this is my last issue of Batman. But into this week's release is Batman number 90, James Tynion IV, Jorge Jimenez on art, which is like the only positive for this issue, is it's all about the backstory about the designer and what he's all about. He's a master criminal that prides himself on like 12 to 20 level designs for crimes. So he's just like a giant clue master like guy. Like, he just sets traps. So he was like a master planner able to cripple a detective he faced years ago because his designs were just so good. And so like years ago, this is like all flashback. He invited Catwoman, Riddler, Joker, and Penguin to his little house that's like on this bay outside of outside of Gotham. And they go and like he each helps them like make a master plan to take down Batman or like get rich or something. And when he meets with the Joker, like the Joker just like transforms his mind and makes him go crazy, where the designer tries to kill the rest of the villains. But Joker just shoots him in the back of the head with a Derringer. And it's just like only the designer could see what evil the Joker would become. I was like, bullshit. No, he was already evil at this point too. Like, I hate this stupid retcon of like all these villains made a pact and that like no one knew how crazy the Joker was yet. Like, I hate it. But the rest of it is dealing with what's Selina have to tell Batman, and it turns out that if the designer's really back and acting out all the villain's master plans, Selina's was to steal all the Wayne's money and render Bruce Wayne penniless, so all of his billions of dollars that are back in safe holded at Wayne Manor are going to get robbed, so they're going to get back to the mansion. That's the issue. Yeah, this runs off to like just a bad start, and I don't like to say that because I like Tynan, but this ain't Batman for me, Chief. So I'm gonna stop off Batman, and I'm just gonna stick with Detective until that's inevitably pulled into Joker War.
Yeah, I was looking at the March solicits earlier, and I was like, oh, I saw the word Joker War, so we might be skipping an arc of Detective, or some of us. We will see. But apparently this book's always good, maybe.
Yes. So this issue is kind of concluding a two-parter with Wolverine, and the issue opens to the Black Cat and Wolverine jumping out of a window and escaping. We get some reflection from Felicia as well, kind of about where they're at in this whole heist, and we get a good sequence of Logan and Felicia kind of escaping through the sky. And what's funny is that she's using like a zip line to swing from, and she actually ends up dropping Wolverine because he's too heavy. And she's like, "Why are you so damn heavy?" And he's like, "My body's made of metal, bitch," or whatever. So that's kind of funny. And so they're escaping with these like glasses that have the whereabouts of this one treasure that Felicia and Wolverine are kind of both after, but Felicia needs it more than Logan does, obviously. So Logan kind of helps her out because he'd rather have her have it than this Cade guy who is the evil guy in this story. So throughout this issue, they're pretty much just trying to escape and stuff like that. So um, yeah, so they fight off some zombies. Logan in this whole issue is also dressed up in his classic brown and yellow outfit, which is really cool. Definitely probably one of the best Wolverine costumes that honestly, and Mike can attest to this, doesn't really have an origin. It's just one issue back in Uncanny X-Men. Wolverine just put it on and he's like, I wanted to change it, and that's what it is. So that's really cool to see that. The two heroes are then chased by some more mercenaries when they're on a boat, and Deadpool ends up saving them. So he makes an appearance in this book, really shoehorned in, not really fluid with the rest of the story. But he actually tries to betray them because he's working with the guy that was that had the glasses, and Wolverine and Felicia end up stabbing Deadpool through his like stomach with the boat that they're escaping on. And Felicia actually takes the glasses and puts them on Deadpool after she finds out where they have to go. So at the end of the day, she ends up grabbing the art from the guy, stealing it from him. And this Cade guy ends up going to the location where the glasses are, only to find Deadpool recovering from his stab wound. So kind of a fun issue. At this point, the status quo is, Black Cat is back in America now. So I'm assuming she's gonna meet up with the Silver Fox to try to, get back at the Guild for what they did to her and the Fox. So we'll see how it goes. But yeah, I mean, this whole storyline was kind of just a holdover for the main thing to come. So we'll see how it goes. But again, great art. Can't say enough about all that stuff. So, yep.
And what's the next arc?
I'm not really sure exactly. So we'll have to see. I mean,
I'm pretty sure it's Iron Man.
is it? No. Well, in that case, then it's gonna be perfect. Even more reason for me to read this book now.
Also, Dan, if you were reading any of the X-Men books, you'd know that Wolverine's been back in his brown and tan costume since House of X, Powers of X. So that's not anything special.
Okay. I'm sorry. Also, I forgot to mention, but Jed McKay is the writer, and Chris Enka is the artist. So sorry about that. The color artist for this is also Brian Reber. The letterer was Farron Delgado. So shout out to all those guys for creating this perfect issue.
All right. Daredevil, number 19, Chip Zdarsky, Marco Giacchetto. This is the start of a new 2-issue arc after the 8-part arc that we just got through. But this is just this whole issue is just chaos. All the villains we saw from last issue are just wreaking havoc in Hell's Kitchen, and Wilson Fisk, who's mayor of New York City, can't put out any police dispatches or anything because the Stromlins are holding them back, and also they're burying any social media posts about it or any news coverage about it. So unless you're in Hell's Kitchen, you don't know what the hell's going on, and it's just kind of 20 pages of just absolute terror as all these villains are just murdering these people who are helpless. Though there is a band of people in Hell's Kitchen who are putting on Daredevil masks, and we focus on Hector a little bit, who we saw earlier in the run, who was a Daredevil impersonator that was saved by Matt, and he tries to fight Bullseye and dies, and Matt gets there to rescue him. He's holds him in his arms as he dies, and then he takes his Daredevil mask and puts it on. In this moment where Matt realized that this whole point of not being Daredevil anymore, it's he's the one that tainted it, but it's the people that didn't let the legacy get tarnished or die. So that's kind of what's inspired him now to be Daredevil again. And so Matt fully becomes Daredevil again by putting on the mask. Bullseye sees this other guy in a white shirt put on a Daredevil mask, and he throws a knife at him, saying, "I'm getting tired of killing fake Daredevils." And Matt catches it, and he's like, "Nope, this is the real one." So finally, after so many issues, Matt's back in costume, but he won't be fully back in costume until I think issue 21. But this is good enough. He's got the cowl on, so it looks cool. Marco Cicchetto's art is just effortlessly just amazing as always. And we have another moment of when the Rhino's trying to destroy this church. We focus on the sister nun that Matt's been talking to, and it's revealed that she's actually Typhoid Mary. So a whole bunch of setup, but advancement going on in Chip Zdarsky's Daredevil, the best book Marvel is publishing right now.
Sorry, some technical difficulties backstage, but yeah, I mean this issue is the reason why all this reading of all these stories before it were worth it, because this is it's just bringing all this stuff to a head. This kind of reminds me, I mean, this is pretty vague to kind of compare these two, but it kind of reminds me of the end of Bendis's run when Bullseye and Daredevil end up fighting in the street, and Elektra comes in, and because that's when everyone knows.
Run, yeah.
It kind of reminds me a little bit about that, because it's just the same type of setting and just everything just boiling up to a head. Yeah, this is really good, and I totally agree with you on that. This is probably the best book that Marvel is publishing right now.
Yeah, the only bad thing about it is Bullseye's new costume is still terrible, and someone needs to change that because it looks awful.
Yeah, definitely could use some work.
It just put him in his regular suit. There was nothing wrong with it.
Nope.
But Doctor Strange number 4. So Stephen Strange is barely able to make it to his scheduled emergency brain surgery as he is busy battling a giant monster that was left at his forge after he discovered demons broke into it and have been stealing from it and selling his materials off on a magic black market. And he gets scolded at the hospital by his head of medicine, not his boss, Regina, and they go out for a drink, just kind of calm each other down, which is where he informs her about Dr. Druid, who is the new head of medicine at the hospital. They later figure out. So she gets informed that oh, Dr. Druid is this really weird dude, and that's who's running my hospital. And the next day in surgery, Strange uncovers a trap where he is secretly operating on a cloaked demon, and his scalpel, if it cuts the brain of this demon, it's going to just explode the place and blow up the hospital. And the hair of the demon is pulling the scalpel, so it's pulling itself to touch the brain. So it's kind of a race against the clock. So it's Strange has to send out a telepathic a message to Dr. Druid to get into the operating room so they can like figure out a way to stop this, and they do, where they're able to siphon off the explosion up to the arboretum that's on top of the hospital, and they're able to stop it really quickly and contain it, but they realize that they got to switch from defense to go on offense now that the hospital is now being attacked by these demons that both want them kind of out of the picture. I thought this was a really, really good issue by Mark Waid and Kev Walker. It's been the start of these guys going back to the number one of this series. Mark Waid's been on this in the previous iteration of Strange. He took the editor-in-chief position at Skybound. I don't know much longer he's going to be on this book, but I'm enjoying it, and just a good all-round Mark Waid comic book. Really, really good stuff with the tension building of like, is this hospital going to explode? Is Dr. Druid going to be able to team up with Doctor Strange? And they do, and it looks like they're going to go off to find out who's selling stuff on the magic black market on the next issue. Really good stuff.
It's not Skybound. Skybound is Robert Kirkman's studio at Image. I'm not sure which. I can't Google fast enough. Maybe I don't know. All right. This is kind of a Doctor Strange spinoff, I guess. Strange Academy, #1. Written by Scotty Young, art by Humberto Ramos. Our kind of focal point character, our Harry Potter, is Emily Bright. She's a little girl from Kansas, born and raised. And she literally, like, as soon as she's in her crib, she's exhibiting kind of hints that she has magical abilities. And it evolves and evolves. And at one crucial point, it's actually very, very similar to Jean Grey's origin. She saves her dog from getting hit by a car, and I think her dog effectively her dog would have died, but she uses like her magic to prevent that. But she doesn't fully understand it at first, but the way that magic works in the Marvel Universe now, or sometimes, is that if you're going to add something gets detracted or something like that. Like, there's a cost to magic, and so that kind of haunts her. And so as she grows up after that experience, she kind of tries to experiment a little bit, and she creates some flowers out of thin air. But it turns out that, I don't know if she just disturbed the balance or if she pulled from something else, because the tree that she's leaning up against starts trying to attack her. And this is where Zelma Stanton shows up out of nowhere. And she is from Jason Aaron's run on Doctor Strange. She was kind of like his assistant. Basically the same thing as Wong, but I guess not. Like, Wong still gets into action sometimes. Zelma's thing is she's really good with artifacts and scrolls and books and things like that. So she's kind of like the magic librarian kind of skill class or something. And she quickly explains to Emily magic 101, or even lower than that, 1+1, and then invites her to attend her special school. And her parents are like, hell no, our daughter is not some character in a children's book. Obviously Harry Potter dig / several other books. But eventually she's like, yeah, I'll go. I need to go. This is what I've always needed, what I want. And if I don't go, magic shit's going to haunt me anyways. The school is in New Orleans, which I think is an interesting choice. Basically anything in the Marvel Universe that is not in New York is an interesting choice. So we'll see. I mean, obviously New Orleans, it makes sense. If you were to put a magic bullshit school anywhere in the United States, that would be one of the top options as far as similar vibe and access to certain things and stuff like that. And there are a couple supernatural related characters that are from the area, I believe, or never mind. Let me move forward. So we meet some of the other students. Shaylee Moonpetal is a half human, half fairy from Otherworld. She's got wings and pink skin. And obviously Otherworld we're dealing with a bit in the X-Men books. In fact, the next book I'm going to talk about, even though it doesn't appear in that book this week. And then there are two Asgardian twins, Eirik and Alvi. One of them has a man bun. Then there's also a frost giant. And after those three characters get introduced and have a little bit of conflict, that's where Loki comes in as one of the teachers. And then my favorite character so far, Doyle Dormammu, which is apparently Dormammu's son. And he just looks like this like half preppy / half slacker kid with a Dormammu head and like fiery arms and stuff. He has like a popped collar. It's kind of fun. It's a really fun design from Ramos. And then Dr. Voodoo shows up, and he's kind of like the actual like main teacher, as far as I can tell. And he introduces some more students. There's a kid from the Swamps of Weird World. There's an edgy girl demon from Limbo, also X-Men related, and also appearing in Ghost Rider. Then we get more teachers. Somehow the Ancient One factors into this. I have no idea how that works. The Ancient One died years ago. I don't know what the current status quo with that is. And then there's the Mindful One, which is a mindless one, who I guess has more capabilities, and he's like their chef and maintenance type of dude. And then we have all the guest appearance teachers show up, and they're going to be like popping in and out rather than in every single issue. And those include Damon Hellstrom, Nico Minoru from The Runaways, Scarlet Witch, Magic, and Shaman. And it's a little weird and funny to have Scarlet Witch and Magic standing right next to each other in this panel, given the very recent happenings in X-Men books. And then all the kids are like, where's Doctor Strange? This is called Strange Academy. And haha, here's a big portal and a giant monster. Surprise, first lesson. All the kids kind of team up and help Doctor Strange fight this monster-looking thing. Then he gives them a like kind of pep talk, and the ending word of advice is try not to die. So that's the issue. I actually really enjoyed this. I don't think the writing is 110% there. I know Scotty Young has gotten a lot of acclaim for, I think it's called Middle West, one of his Image books, and maybe he's done another one that people like too. But I haven't really fully connected with some of his Marvel work, or I like it, but to me it seems like he's not a writer first, which is fine. But I know I would recommend this book to you guys, but I don't think you guys would remotely like it, because a major part of why I liked it is the art. I think Humberto Ramos has a really fun style. I think his style fits perfectly for teenagers. And I think actually it's not like he's hiding from his style or like toning down his style, but this seems like the cleanest or like most intentional that his art has been in anything that I've read from him recently. And I don't know if that's just because it's the first issue and he had more time. It could be that it gets sloppier and sloppier with each issue. But I really enjoyed the look here. I mean, obviously he has a lot of experience in that realm with Impulse, some work on like Gen 13, or no, I think, yeah, he did a little bit of Gen 13, but I think he launched DV8, which was another teenage Wildstorm book. Obviously, he's done some Spider-Man, though most of the times when he drew Spider-Man, he was not really supposed to be a teenager at all. And he's done some of the teen X-Men books before. And the character designs especially. There are a lot of characters in this class, and I only mentioned like 5 of them because those are the 5 that like actually get screen time and I find actually interesting. There are like 2 or 3 of these kids that I think they should just drop after the first arc or something, because the cast is just too large to focus on all of them. And there are a few that are not interesting. There's 2 kids that are both like brunette humans, and one of them's like shorter and a little chubby and wears a jacket, and the other looks just like super generic brunette human kid. But even still, like they look different, and one of them's like Hispanic maybe, and one's like the slacker dude. I don't know, but like get rid of both of those. And then there's this one black girl human character, and I think she's supposed to be from New Orleans, but the demon girl's like, I know what you are. And so initially this girl doesn't seem remotely interesting, but I'm waiting for that twist. I'm going to definitely keep reading this. I think it's always valuable for Marvel to have kind of that teen book. And there's probably definitely like 5 of them that I'm not reading, but I'm kind of blanking on it now. And this one seems more interesting. I'm definitely going to read this over the next Champions relaunch after Outlawed, which I'm not going to read either. And also, I'm happy to report, but also maybe not because I'm a continuity nerd, that this book is apparently ignoring Outlawed and for now ignoring all the Krakoa stuff. So like when Magic and Scarlet Witch pop up, I don't know that they'll really dig into that. But I actually, in conclusion, as I said already, I would recommend this book. I don't expect, I'm not sure if you guys would enjoy it though.
No, I would not enjoy it.
All right. Now, next one, Excalibur number 8. This is Teeny Howard, and I think we have Will Santos and Marcus Toe on this issue art-wise. It kind of picks up where the last one left off, but not really. The last one ended with Colin Bloodstone revealing himself as an anti-mutant racist and turning on them and hunting them and revealing his monster self. That was like the final page. But this issue, they're kind of in the middle of a fight, not picking up the fight. And then it quickly calms down and they're just like, yeah, let's just go have a talk and eat some food. So it just devolves into a conversation scene. And I kind of snored for a bit. And then Richter is walking around trying to, he's having trouble sleeping. Overhears Colin on the phone. And then they make out with each other. And Colin's like, hey, we're both gay, gay people with supernatural abilities or powers. We all know each other. Let's not pretend. So make out with me. And it's not clear if he's just like, hey, let's make out, or if he's like, you overheard me. Let me distract you by making out. The intention's not fully clear to me. And then Richter runs away to find Betsy wearing old school lingerie for some reason on the page. And then they wake up in the morning and they go back to hunting the skulls. And then they beat up Colin again. And they find a baby and they let it live despite Apocalypse's protest. And it gets given to Rachel. And then a footnote tells us, go read X Factor #1. And I think my response is no. This issue wasn't bad or anything like that, but it felt a lot more toned down from where we left off in the last issue of this series. Like we rapidly de-escalated and probably missed scenes. And then the rest of it, like there were lots of confusing moments that I didn't really understand what they were trying to do. And then it ends, and I guess this is the end of an arc, and I don't know where we go next. There's no real tease for where this book is actually going next. Just telling me to read X Factor, which I'm not that interested in.
Yeah, this was like an abrupt ending to what I thought was going to be at least another issue of the arc. So that was definitely odd. Also, I don't know why you're saying old school lingerie. It was just an old school nightgown. I don't know why you said lingerie.
Well, it's not really lingerie, I guess.
I do like that you're positioning Rachel as the head of X-Force. I think that's a cool idea. And it's nice to see that, like, we leave off here setting up another book. That was more of like an epilogue kind of end credit scene kind of thing to set that up. But, like, it was like 4 pages of the final issue. So, it was just a very overall weird flow to the whole thing. But, like, it wasn't bad. It was just, like, abruptly ended.
Yeah. Again, I have no idea what's happening next, so I'm definitely going to read the next issue. But honestly, if the next issue is kind of like mid-lean or I'm iffy on it, this might be one of my drop candidates.
Yeah, I feel the same way.
And I do like it, but there's only so many books we can read and cover on this show. And this X-Men, as we discussed last time, taking up a lot.
Well, it's the funny thing. We had to do a supplemental last week, and thankfully this week we only have 2 X-Men books.
On that note,
Marauders #9, Jerry Duggan. Mateo Lawley is back on art, so that's nice to see. The Marauder pulls back into Hellfire Bay, which I believe is what we're calling that place, or when they pull into Krakoa. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure it's Hellfire Bay. And Pyros, he's just taken in the party, and he sees Jean Grey waiting for him on a Pontiac Firebird, and he just starts making out with Jean, and he drives off. And I'm like, what the heck's happening here? And it's revealed that this is all an illusion or hallucination put on by Emma Frost, as she knows that there's a stowaway and it's in Pyro. She knows it's Yellow Jacket. So they keep it so make it look like there's an illusion going on. So she meets with Bishop and they get Pyro and they make it look like Yellow Jacket exploded out of Pyro and Yellow Jacket kills Emma so it can go back to Madripoor. That's also an illusion. And then we get like 2 text pages back to back, but now we know that they're going off to Madripoor, which means the Marauders can know, okay, this is our target. So back to reality, Pyro is like, he's fine, Emma's fine, and they get Magneto to extract Yellow Jacket out, and he just flips him out because the submarine is in his metal. And he literally just flicks him across the ocean, which I thought was hilarious. But later on with that, Emma sends a message to like the little Hellfire kids saying, hey, don't mess with us. And Pyro like makeshift burns them. So they at least felt the pain of it, but still all an illusion. A lot of illusion telepaths going on here. And Magneto brings up a new rule for telepaths. When people come back in from the island, they should use the telepaths to kind of like go with a code word system to see if anyone's like being mind controlled or there's anything that shouldn't be there, which I think was a cool idea. And cut back to the 5 who have been trying to revive Kitty, and guess what? They can't. So our worst fears revealed. They can't bring Kitty back for whatever reason, and Lockheed is waking up and he's flying out to sea from the girl who was like taking him in and nursing him back to health. That's our issue of Marauders. Same thing with Excalibur this week of I don't know where it's going, but I'm really interested. You muted yourself.
This was kind of sort of a down issue as well, but it was a very interesting one as it was like almost like an Inception type of thing with the multiple layers of the psychic plane illusions. And there were some fun moments. Yellow Jacket enlarging the sub and just blowing Pyro to chunks, and then Emma covered in blood and guts. Pretty great pages. And then likewise, when Pyro's like, again, in the psychic plane, like burning these like fake Hellfire kids. It's pretty fun stuff. Though this issue was Matteo Loli, who is like supposed to be the main artist on this book. And I really, really enjoyed his art on like the first 2 or 3 issues, whatever, that he consistently did. But I feel like this is the first issue, in a couple issues that's like 100% him. But there was something, and I think it smoothed out as the issue went on, but there was something off about it. Or maybe it's just that I haven't seen it in a while. It felt like kind of stiff or something like that. I don't know how to describe it.
It looked fine to me, but
all right, now we've got the big chonky.
Yeah, the big chungus of the week. By the way, I think this is the perfect place for me to say that Mark Waid became editor-in-chief of Humanoids.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Not the character on the article had a guy with a star on it, so it made me think of the Skybound logo. That's why. But Flash number 750, it's the big chungus of the week. Another 750 anniversary issue from DC Comics. The first one this year being from Wonder Woman. And Wonder Woman had 9 stories, Vince. Flash only had 6. Did you count? Did you notice that?
I mean, I didn't necessarily count them. I mean, I read them all and I saw the credits page.
All right, I'm just saying, like, there's 6 less 3 less stories in here.
Yeah, you feel the difference. It maybe reads faster,
Definitely read faster for me. Maybe that's also the fact that Flash wasn't fighting the same villain over and over again.
Yeah, each story feels a lot more substantial, and not just because of length. And you also just less stories. You have a higher average caliber of creators.
And though one of our creators here is the same writer twice, just keep that in mind.
Yep.
my favorite story was Beer Run by Jeff Johns and Scott Collins, reuniting that early to mid 2000s team under when Wally West was the Flash. And we get a Captain Cold story. He's just trying to watch his hockey game, watch his underdog team win because the team's garbage, and he's out of beer, and it's almost the third period, and the team's ahead. So he's got to go to a local store to get some beer. And he wants to pay for it. He's not going to rob anything. He just wants to go get his beer so he can watch his hockey game. And of course, some petty thief trying to rob the store, and he gets to do a standoff with him, and he pulls out his freeze gun. And he's like, freezes the dude, but like not so like he kills him, so like he can still like hear him. And then like all of the Central City Police Department comes in, and they're trying to get him. And he just makes a huge scene because the next day it turns out it's the Flash Museum Day. So Wally, we get a shot of Wally the next day looking in the paper going, Captain Cold's just trying to upstage me on Flash Day. It was like this great moment of like, and it cuts back to Captain Cold who's gotten away, and he's like, no, I just want to watch my team in the third period. That was my favorite story.
Yeah, this is a great one. I think it's kind of funny how it kind of makes Flash seem like a dick. I mean, Cold was still like fucking people over and freezing people and like dealing with cops and stuff like that, but still, like Wally seems like very like, I can't think of the right word, but he's just overly annoyed about it.
He's annoyed just because he thinks it's Captain Cold trying to send a message, but it's not that.
But this is totally pre-Flashpoint, but post Jeff Johns' Wally run.
Yeah.
Because obviously Linda's here, but also the kids are here. So that's interesting, and that may slightly connect to some of the other stories in this issue. And then I'm sure you may have noticed that two of the hockey players are named Messner and LaRoque.
I did.
Yeah, the spelling's slightly different. Obviously, Messner, it's Messner Lobes, and back in the day, it would be just Lobes. But, you know, obviously, he's given a shout out there. Can we kind of just run through most of these very quickly?
The first story is Godspeed coming back he's got to fight the Flash now, and I didn't love it because I think Godspeed's stupid, but also the famous like panel from Greg LaRoque of Wally holding Linda is done here with Barry and Iris, and I'm just tired of Barry stealing Wally's thunder in best pages.
Yeah, I liked this story though. It's way more successful than the Wonder Woman one, which, if I recall correctly, was like a part 2 or part 4 of a story.
Part 5 finale, though. Overall, I thought the story was good. With the framing of like, Iris writing the story, which Vince, she said she had 2 surprises for the Flash.
Yeah.
Kids coming back? Is that the thing for DC right now?
I don't know. Yeah, that would be interesting. I liked the Rainbow Raider kind of like joke usage. I think like if you were picking up Flash 750 and you were considering should I pick up 751, I think this story was like the best kind of usage of that as we've seen across any of these Hallmark issues. Because it is both like inspiring, standalone, and context-free, while also part 1 of a story and the main ongoing writer. And it's also referring back to other stuff, but not too much. So you might want to go back and pick up the trades. I wasn't gushing about it, but I think it was used very well.
I at least left that first story going, I might pick up Flash 751 if it's a light week the week it comes out.
I mean, for me, it's more like reaffirming that in 20 years from now, I'll read the whole thing in trade or something like that. But it's nice to have those check-ins and like reconfirm your stuff every once in a while. The Manipul story, I don't have much to say about this at all.
I liked it.
And it was fine. I thought this was actually my least favorite story, sort of. There's a asterisk there. The question,
our least favorite story. It's the flash forward epilogue.
Well, I'm getting to that. So the question in this story is, does the Flash have to be Barry Allen specifically? And literally any Flash fan should know the answer to that. And that is actually the answer we get, where it's like, oh, in this he goes through these alternate universes, and there's different versions of the Flash or different heroes and stuff like that. And I actually liked all that stuff. Like it hits that inspiring kind of anniversary issue theme, but I felt the dialogue on either side of it between Barry and Iris is a little stiff, and that's just reminding me of like that's the weakness of that Manipul and Buccellato run.
Yep, it was exactly that my thinking. I think that run gets a lot of praise in the art, and I've tried to read it I think once or twice, and I just can't get through it because that dialogue is so stiff.
Yeah, and then just because there's only 6 stories, so the Wolfman and Riley Rossmo story. First of all, interesting you see Rossmo he did one here, he did one in Wonder Woman, he may have done one in other issues, maybe one in coming up. So it's interesting to see a repeat creator and not like a huge writer or something that's jumped between characters. Obviously, Wolfman, he's the old school dude they brought in for this. It's a Mirror Master story. There's lots of Silver Age throwback references. Barry's head gets big. He turns into like a puppet. And the art is really energetic from Rossmo. And
favorite story just because, I have bias because Mirror Master is my favorite Flash villain.
Yeah, they were really cool. Like, I can't say I've read, a ton of Mirror Master stories, but this is one of the most inventive visual ways that I've seen his powers displayed. And then the second Josh Williamson story, drawn by David Marquez, is a Jay Garrick pre-war story. And this is like kind of sort of following up from the Wonder Woman 750 Snyder and Hitch story.
Yep.
And it's quickly mentioned in caption, and then you see a newspaper. So these JSA heroes in the past, I guess because Wonder Woman was first now, they're all inspired by her, and they're slowly inching towards the Justice Society, or, like taking their crime fighting / justice pursuit to another level. And we get he's kind of going up against the Thinker here, who first appeared in All Flash number 12. And we get a nice panel where you basically get all of the Jay Garrick rogues, because Jay Garrick has distinct rogues from Barry Allen and Wally West. You have Shade here, Ragdoll, Rival, and the Fiddler. And there's a cool, very hopeful classic DC moment where you see Joan, his wife, Joan Williams, or eventual wife, they're probably not married yet, saying, hey, we're probably going to, you're probably still going to be doing this when we're old and gray. And of course, the Justice Society. And the ultimate message here is that hope is harder than fear, and that Jay somehow knows that he's a part of something greater. But there's also this weird thing where like someone is like speaking to him, or like an otherworldly voice. And I think that's leading into whatever bullshit comes next. And in fact, I think don't they have a teaser here that says like, watch out for Generation Zero or whatever?
Yes.
Yeah, so that's where this kind of narrative is going to go next. And most of the pinups, they're not worth really talking about, except for this one, because immediately following this Jay Garrick story, you get a beautiful, like Jeff Johns era Justice Society pinup page from Dale Eaglesham. And it's really amazing. And it's also great contrast, specifically placing it here, because Jay is front and center, obviously, because Flash 750, and he has his gray hair and everything. And that was really cool to see. And then the final story is a flash forward epilogue. And we read I don't know. I guess it's also similar to the Jay Garrick story. Like, it's kind of following narratives that are going to pop up elsewhere, I guess.
Yeah, I just don't agree with this being in here. You should have finished your story in your miniseries.
Yeah, I guess, but like sliding it out and sliding it here makes it more important, and then they'll do it correctly in the trade.
With Wally as Flash. I'm just saying. What would you rather have?
Yeah, so Wally's in this stupid Mobius chair, and we get a montage page of all these different timelines and points in the timeline that he can access. And we see like 0 Hour and New 52 panel and stuff like that, including a little thing of Wildstorm, and it's something like, Wild Worlds and Timelines.
Yeah.
And then later we get differences between the Wally West origin from the Silver Age versus Flash Year One, which we read for the show, and then we have the other major part that I want to highlight is Teen Titans differences. We have the Teen Titans that Wally formed with Dick, Garth, and sort of Donna in the Silver Age, and then the New 52 version. And this is actually why I think it's worth talking about, besides the fact that it's going to move into other stuff, is that there's like a weird further meta element here, not just as in like Wally West and fans and crises and everything like that. Brett Booth, the artist of Flash Forward, the artist of this story, was discovered by Jim Lee, now the sole publisher of DC Comics. And his breakout was the Grifter and Backlash team-up miniseries, The Kindred, which then moved into a Backlash ongoing. So there's the little Wildstorm panel and how, that's off the map and has been lost. And literally like this week, it was like kind of sort of officially confirmed that the latest revival of the Wildcats is canceled. And then the Teen Titans connection is that if people recall, say what you will about the run, I think most people would agree on a certain side, but Scott Lobdell and Brett Booth were the creative team on that version of the Teen Titans for the New 52. And so it's this weird like thing, but it's like, how are they actually like evaluating their careers and like those past collaborations and works? How do they feel about it? And then this ends with like Tempest, whatever this stupid cosmic idiot's name is, asking Wally, can you stop it and reverse the damage that has been done? And then, my name is Wally West. I'm the fastest man alive. I got this. And so like in a weird way, I was like, I don't know, this story actually kind of got me excited.
Yeah, that's the sad thing, isn't it? Like when I saw all the flashbacks to all the stuff that we like, which by the way, everything that we don't like, there was a line down the middle, like all the New 52 stuff is on the right side of the book. All the stuff we like is on the left. I'm like, if he brings all the stuff from the left back, like I ain't gonna complain.
Yeah, and it's very weird now. I mean, I don't want to get too like behind the scenes, and there's nothing to get behind the scenes because we don't know shit.
Well, we don't know shit, and when Didio was, when we say fired or let go, I don't even really want to use the word fired because there's not been a single official press release from it. Like it's been 3 weeks now, and there's been no press release. So,
yeah, I mean, it's kind of, this story gave me the same feeling that I had early on when in Doomsday Clock. I'm like, all right, this is awful and horrific, and I hate what they're doing, but they're kind of hanging the carrot on the stick and saying like, hey, we're gonna use this stupid thing to fix it.
Yeah,
and that gets me at least at first, and then we'll see if they actually fucking do anything.
Well, it gets you at first, and then they have editorial changeover and delays, and then they just do a different reboot instead, ignoring the one they've already set up. That's been the MO for DC in their last 2 times they've tried this.
Yep. All right, enough about Giant Flash book, which Dan did not get the time to read or forgot to read or was lazy, but he did read multiple issues of the epic crossover event of our time.
So, Dan, quickly recap the Iron Man corner of the show.
I mean, you can take your time.
Yeah, I was going to say, what the hell? You guys take your time with all your books, and I had to rush through mine. It's bullshit.
Yeah, well, no one reads these books. That's not true. That's mean. I'm sorry.
No, this is getting this. I'm telling you, this before we went on air here. This is getting an oversized hardcover. I'm calling it right now. When
That's
it does,
easy bet, though. It doesn't get an oversized hardcover.
You heard it first here on the show. I'm calling it. Anyway, Iron Man 2020 number 3, written by Dan Slott and Christos Gage, art by Pete Woods, letterer is Joe Caramagna. Awesome last name.
Manya. I believe it's Manya.
Manya? Sorry.
Like lasagna.
Like lasagna. Okay. Awesome. So guys, the robot revolution is continuing. It is awesome. The issue opens to the robots fleeing Banetronics and sending a distress signal out to all the robots to rally to their cause, which at this point is pretty much Banetronics against all the robots in the world. We then pan over to the fight going on inside of Banetronics' main tower, with Iron Man and the Mark One person who is kind of Tony Stark, not Tony Stark, kind of like the AI version of him. And we get an awesome use of Iron Man 2020's kind of like shoulder blades, the gear shoulder blades that he has. He kind of like uses them to like spin, and like when he gets close to Mark One, he's using them to kind of like chew up his armor, which I think is pretty cool. Meanwhile, we have Sunset Bane, who is actually like getting the hell out of there. She's in a helicopter with Andrew Bang, which we remember from the Dan Slott Iron Man run. And she ends up uncovering that Andrew has been a mole for the robots this whole time, sending out the signal for all the robots to rally around and to basically launch an all-out attack against Banetronics, which is what we see. We pan over to New York, where all these robots are pretty much just storming Banetronics to shut down this operating system that's going to get sent out through a satellite that will basically have all the robots obey whatever Sunset Bane wants them to do, and kind of unify them towards this oncoming threat that Arno Stark keeps talking about. And we get a little bit more information about that threat when Mark One wakes up after being like knocked out, and Arno's kind of explaining to him that this is necessary to prevent the downfall of the world. This upcoming threat has to have all the robots unified to attack it. There can't be any dissent between the robots and the humans. And he kind of, this is kind of a good like motif here. It's not really well executed, but he kind of alludes to the fact that Mark One, being part AI and part human, like being the reason why there's so much dissent amongst the robots and the humans in this world. So just as he's about to finish his point, Mark One breaks away, goes up to the satellite, and destroys the satellite, destroying the operating system that would have taken over all the robots. And Arno Stark, in his frustration, vaporizes Mark One. He falls down, falling off the top of the tower, and lands in Awesome Andy's arms, about to pass out. And that's where our issue ends. Guys, don't sleep on Iron Man 2020. This is actually shaping up to be a pretty interesting event. I'm so surprised that Dan Slott actually has somewhat of an idea about what's going on here. And it's funny because all this story is there. Tony Stark is not technically in it. So I kind of find it funny how he's done better storytelling with Arno Stark, but I thought it was pretty good. And that's all I have for that. And no one else read it. So I'll just continue on to my next book, which is 2020 Rescue #1. And again, it's kind of convenient that it falls into this order for our podcast, but this actually follows the events of Iron Man 2020 #3. So at this point, everything has already happened. So the writer is Dana Schwartz. The art is Jason Burrows. So I will say before I get started here, Jason Burrows, not a big fan of your art. Hopefully it gets better over the course of the book here, but I thought there was a lot of times where it was very rough, very, very, I hate to say this, but because, I know all these artists work really hard on these books, but a lot of the stuff felt a little rushed and a little sloppy at points. But again, yeah.
I'm happy you mentioned this because you didn't finish the miniseries, but Jason Burrows is currently the artist on Punisher Soviet.
Mm-hmm.
We like the art over there. So when we and Vince saw the solicits and saw Jason Burrows was drawing an Iron Man book, we were a little bit like, well, how's that going to turn out? So disappointed to hear that, but continue.
Yeah, I would say like the images of like people are good. The armor though, I think is where it really falls flat. And like with books like this, the armor has to look nice for it to appeal to someone who's reading this book. But anyway, long diatribe aside, we open to a montage of Pepper's life. So kind of just summarizing who she is and what we are at this point, up until the death of Tony. So, we kind of get up to speed with who she is. We get a reference to Happy Hogan, who is still dead. He's been dead since Civil War. So she ends up meeting up with Bethany Cabe, who at this point is working. They're both working for Stark Resilient, and they're planning to use the rescue armor to kind of go across the world and find Tony's, blood mom and like blood related mom and dad. And the first issue, this issue, opens up with them trying to find Amanda Armstrong, who is Tony's real mom. Because what they want to do is they want to take a little bit of the mom and a little bit of the dad and combine it to make a new Tony Stark. Oh boy.
So this is Teen Tony all over again?
I have no idea where this is going, but it is. I just heard of the premise at the beginning. I'm just like, this is not going to end well, but we'll find out. So the whole issue pretty much is Pepper going over to England, trying to find Amanda Armstrong, who is an ex-SHIELD agent, and she kind of walks in on like this like jam session going on where this robot is holding them all hostage, and Amanda's like, I don't really like, I'm not really being held hostage, but I kind of am. And they end up talking, and Pepper's like, I need your hair or whatever. And Amanda's like, I'm not giving it to you because Tony should just stay dead and you should just move on from him. And we kind of get some flashbacks to her life, with Tony and everything. And come to find out, Hydra is involved and actually tries to kill Amanda to prevent Tony Stark from being cloned at all, which that really doesn't make any sense because you could, if someone dies, you can still take their DNA and use it to clone someone. But anyway, yeah, that was weird. So they end up attacking with like these drones. The robot that was in this like jam session area ends up saving the day as well. So kind of just vaguely alluding to the whole robot revolution thing in the main book. But I thought this was all right. I mean, I'm guessing next issue now is going to be at the end of the issue. Amanda ends up being hospitalized because she got like shot in the arm or something, and she's like, "Here's my hair." So she ends up giving it to Pepper anyway. After all the stuff she said about how they need to move on, at the end she's just like, "Yeah, just take this and clone my son, and see what happens." So we'll see about the next issue. I mean, I'm obligated to read this because I'm going to see this event through all the way. But I'm guessing the next issue will be her going after the father now. So we'll see.
Sounds exciting. All right, Justice League number 42. The Eradicator gets like, I don't know. Is this just me? Was he getting like kind of sexual towards Wonder Woman?
That's you.
Well, it might be me. That's how it comes off at first. He's like, because he's like, oh, you're strong, but you're not Kryptonian, and you're able to dominate here on Earth. And he's like, I could use your DNA. But it turns out, he doesn't want to like have sex with her. He just wants to like melt her.
Yeah, because he tries to burn her face off.
Yeah, with his fire breath shit. And then Sodom Yat pulls out the gat. And then, I don't know, everyone's kind of running around. There's some badass Flash moments where he's racing all of the Daxamites, and they go through time and space. And then on the other side, Madame Xanadu is able to transport the rest of the League through time and space. And now they're all on a planet far away from Earth, and it's not a yellow sun. So I guess we'll have a fight next issue, and it's just going to be Superman and all the Daxamites just flailing around like worthless humans while Eradicator and like Wonder Woman beat the shit out of each other. I don't get it. I mean, it'll just be everyone laying a beat down on the Daxamites, except for Eradicator, who will still be kind of a threat, I think, based on how I think his powers work. And Superman, who's in the front of the lineup here, is also going to be kind of useless. But I guess that's interesting. I don't know. Is this the third issue of this? I think. Yeah, it's the third issue. I don't think I'm gonna keep reading it, or I might wait until the next arc.
I think so as well. I don't know what's going on anymore. This started off fine and just quickly kind of fell apart, but I enjoyed the Aaron Lopresti art.
Yeah, I mean, it's not remotely bad. I think it's just kind of a mid-lean Justice League arc, and
yeah, this feels how it felt near the end before the launch of the New 52. No one knew what to do with it.
Well, and also, I mean, I didn't read a lot of this shit for obvious reasons, but I feel like this is probably what people were feeling in like when Brian Hitch was writing Justice League in the beginning of Rebirth. Like,
well, beginning of Rebirth wasn't them facing off their possible future kids and shit. Like,
well,
I don't care about that.
There's some of that, yeah. I mean, it's all the Justice League arcs are always like, ooh, it's an alien invasion. Here's the next alien invasion. This time, it's a like metaphysical virus. This time, it's a race of tiny people. This time, it's Daxamites.
Yeah.
I don't know necessarily what I expect, but I feel like in this decompression era and where these solo titles are always where you get your character development and everything like that, I don't know. I've been trying to figure it out because I feel like Avengers has been suffering from the same issue for a lot of years.
And that's what I've told you. Event Comics killed team books.
Yeah, I think that could be part of it. All right, that's Justice League. I'm not sure if I'll read the next issue.
Let's talk about an interesting book.
Yes, King of Nowhere #1. This is from Boom Studios. This is W. Maxwell Prince of Ice Cream Man fame, which I've recently started reading and talking about on the show. Art by Tyler Jenkins and color by Hilary Jenkins. I assume there's a relation there. And the color is really unique. And it really fits the vibe of the story. It's either watercolor or a digital imitation of it. I'm not certain. And this guy, his name is Dennis. He's tripping balls and or dreaming. He stumbles into a small town called Nowhere. And there's like fish people and a guy with an upside down head and a dude with 6 arms. He gets into kind of like a bar fight and he's hoping to wake up. He thinks this is all a dream. So he kind of has a nihilistic attitude. And he goes into the fight because he's like, all right, well, let me just get the shit beaten out of me because I'll wake up and then it won't matter. But while I'm in this dream, I might as well kind of be a good guy. And then because he was in this fight, gets caught up with the local police officers and helps them go hunt giant iguanas. And then in the end, a deer man, and they're all like anthropomorphic, a deer dude who he met earlier when he entered the town is leaving the town and gets accosted by another like kind of at least seemingly normal looking dude who kills him with a nail gun. And that panel, it's like a little bit of No Country for Old Men vibes. Otherwise, I don't know how to react to this. It was entertaining. It looked really, really cool. I guess I'll read more. I don't know what the point is. I don't know what the reality is. It was cool.
I mean, it's a first issue that wants you to keep reading, though. Like, I want to know what happens next.
Yeah. Did Dan read this?
No, he didn't.
Okay. But I mean, do you have much more to say? I don't really.
I don't. Other than the coloring just blew me away. It looks incredible.
Yeah, and there's some other cool stuff like sound effects, like when they shoot the guns, they have like boom, and it's like in a cool like a manual way. It reminds me of the way this. I wouldn't say like Tyler Jenkins' like actual style is too close, but kind of the general aesthetic, very reminiscent of what you'll see in a Jeff Lemire book or a Matt Kint book.
Yeah, that's exactly the vibe that it is. I liked it. I'm gonna continue on with it at least to the second issue, though. Like, it's a hard thing to talk about. Not a lot happens yet, and we're not entirely sure of what's going on.
Yeah, I'm hoping we get a little bit more to grasp onto in the second issue. Otherwise, it's if like it just kind of meanders on this kind of like, you know, obscuring information and just being a mind trip, then it's going to fall into that Coffin Bound Camp, which was another book that I talked about on the show, where it's like, I don't know why I'm reading this. It looks amazing. It's kind of entertaining, but like, I want a story that I can understand. But Dan did read Marvel, I think.
Yes, I did. So 3 stories here. This is not Marvel's. This is not Marvel's Eye of the Camera. This is Marvel.
Which is a dumb name.
It's
What?
it's a bad name.
What, Marvel number 1?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
it is.
it's bad because the other book's going to be called Marvel's Snapshots.
Yeah, this.
I don't know what this. Just don't call this simply Marvel.
Yeah, it's really not good. I won't spend too much time on this book because there is 3 stories. I won't go into too much depth about each one, but we have a Doctor Strange story written with Alex Ross and Steve Darnall. And we have Spider-Man written by Sajan Saini. Is that his name? Frank Espinoza on art, and an Avengers book written by Kurt Busiek, art by Steve Rude. So basically, the opening Doctor Strange one is Nightmare has captured someone and is holding them. Turns out it's Doctor Strange, and he's going to make him see some dark realities. So the one thing I don't like about this story, though, is that it kind of like it opens you up to the whole thing because, you know, when you think of Marvel, you think of Marvels. You see the nice Alex Ross, right? It's Alex Ross art, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and you start thinking like, oh, this is no, it's nothing even close to what the actual Marvel's book was that I like so very much, but it is whatever. The next story is with Spider-Man. It's really stupid. He reflects on how important his webbing is and is also budgeting and thinking about himself as a couple with MJ now, which obviously alluding to the current Amazing Spider-Man series. And then the last one, which I thought, sorry, go ahead.
I don't know if it was. That's the thing. Like, was it?
I don't know.
A snapshot of like back in like the 80s or mid 90s. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, I wasn't a really big fan of that art at all either. I was like, what the hell's going on? Half the time I'm like, what are they even talking about? Just not good.
I actually like the art on that story.
I also liked the art, so Dan's the minority on that one.
It's very like, you know, it's not clear storytelling remotely. It's, you know, it's a very trippy kind of art style and all over the place.
I thought the narration boxes were bad.
Yeah, but all of the writing in this Spider-Man story, I think they were intentionally trying to be annoying or clever and stuff, and I just didn't remotely connect to it. It's like Peter and MJ bickering about nonsense, like budget about his web fluid and stuff, and I'm like, why is this a story? I don't care. This was the weaker one. At least Nightmare is entertaining just being on a page.
Yeah.
But I didn't like those pages either because it's Nightmare. It's Alex Ross. It's just like the whole page is black.
Dark greens and grays and whites, so there's no color to it.
Yeah, it just looks like someone dropped a bunch of ink on the page.
The third story was the best.
Yeah, I'll let Dan actually talk about that one, which I think is what we'll all want to talk about.
Yeah, so, I mean, just in short here, the Avengers battle the Hulk, and the Hulk versions of themselves due to some stupid Tony Stark machine shenanigans. Yeah, I would. This is kind of harkening back, I guess, to like the origin of the Avengers and kind of like some of like the art, especially the opening kind of art page in the beginning of the story, kind of reminds me of that. And yeah, I would say like in terms of the art, I probably like this one the most. I mean, it is a much different style than the other two, obviously, but yeah,
it's Steve Rude doing Jack Kirby.
Yeah, which I think is I thought it was semi-decently done.
I mean, if you need a good like Kirby play the hits artist, Steve Rude's a good guy to go to. I would have liked to see this done more in Steve Rude's style, though.
Mm-hmm. It's funny that like he's trying to imitate Jack Kirby on an Avengers book because Jack Kirby was off that book so quick, man. It wasn't even. It was like what, 12 issues, 11 issues?
Yeah, 12 or 16 or something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, he made it to Kooky Quartet, which
So
is after when this is set.
Yeah.
This was a fun story. It's kind of like what I was possibly expecting. I still don't understand what this series is supposed to be.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. At least with snapshots, we know what that is. Like, I might not read the second one of this just because I don't know what the hell's going on. Like, what's
Yeah, just a bunch of disjointed anthology stories.
Yeah, I guess maybe this series is more like focused on interesting art, and the others are one shots that are supposed to be continuity inserts, and so that's why that's more Busei's realm. This is more Ross's realm. But I think the from the Hulk perspective, this story is kind of interesting because he's like, "Hey, Cap, you stole my team and my only friend," and it's like he's kind of right. And I thought the best panel in this was when the Wasp throws some pepper in her double's face. That was a really inventive use of the Pym particle fact, the dimensions of all that. And then Banner walking away. Though the next issue, at least based on the cover, is supposed to maybe have to do with the Golden Age Black Widow that has zero relevance to anything. But Alex Ross draws her pretty attractive. Paints her. Nothing more to say. This is a mess.
Yeah, we'll see if I stay on for another issue.
Also, so the cover of this is an homage to Marvel Comics or Marvel Mystery Comics #1. The Human Torch coming out of the whatever. The thing is, hasn't Alex Ross painted that image like 20 times already?
Yes, which is why I'm pretty sure they just cropped it and zoomed in. It's not a new image.
I thought
because they wouldn't do that. Like,
I thought issue 1 of Marvel Comics.
They would totally do that.
I thought issue 1 of Marvels was the same thing.
Yes, it was.
It might be. I know it's an interior page.
Marvel's project is the same thing.
It seems to me like a scam, like where like you go to the store, you see that image, you're like, oh, this is Marvel's, I'm gonna grab it, and then you open it up and you're reading like, oh, this is dog shit.
Well, it's not that bad. I think you're making out worse than it is, but
I mean, compared to Marvel's, it is.
No, so the Marvel's #1 was Torch just kind of walking on the street.
Oh.
Okay, still though.
The scene's definitely in the interiors, and he's definitely painted it before. I think he had to have done like the direct market variants for the Golden Age omnibus or something like that. There's no way he's never painted this as a cover.
No, he has. I've seen it.
Yeah. All right, enough of that. Our final book for the week, which is down here.
Yes, our final book of the week, arguably our biggest release of the week. Strange Adventures #1, Tom King, Doc Shaner, Mitch Gerrits. So the A+ team at DC, the big premier team all together for a new 12-issue miniseries about, depression. Because that seems to be the crux of every Tom King 12-issue miniseries. But this is following the war hero of Ran, Adam Strange, as he's releasing a book and going on book tour. So we see snapshots of him on his time on Ran, and all that stuff's drawn by Doc Shaner. All the stuff in the present is drawn by Mitch Gerrits. So we learn about his daughter who has passed away, presumably in the Ran wars he was fighting in, and Adam's being honored everywhere. And at one of his sightings, a man confronts him, saying that he knows what he really did, insinuating that what he did on Ran was really war crimes and he shouldn't be honored for it. So there's the mystery there. Later on, we see that man with his head blown off by a laser pistol, and hey, who's the only guy on Earth with a laser pistol? Adam Strange. So people are questioning whether he did it or not. He gave a press conference saying these are lies. I didn't do it. but he asks Batman to look into it, but Batman refuses because he's too close friends with Adam, which a little strange that Batman says no, but this is under the Black label, so free reign to do whatever you want. But I mean, and I'm totally down for it because the guy he refers him to, we don't hardly get to see ever. So Batman refers him to someone else, and the end of the issue is Adam meeting Michael Holt, who is really Mr. Terrific, one of the smartest people in the DC universe and former member of the Justice Society of America. So, well, I have to say former, Vince, because the JSA doesn't exist right now.
Well, I was going to say, but current member of the Terrifics.
Current actual, I believe, leader of the Terrifics.
Yep.
So it's both of them meeting. But like when he met Michael Holt, he sees himself, like Adam Strange sees himself for a second. So that's where we're getting the weird Tom King messing with your mind stuff. We got the double sequences. I think Jared's art is a little rough and sketchy here. It's not as crisp as I felt Mr. Miracle was, but I think that's because they're supposed to be that way. So I think that's just the vibe they're going for on it. The Shaner stuff, it's fantastic. It's awesome. But yeah, it's the first issue of a Tom King 12-issue miniseries, and we're left with more questions than answers, but definite interest as always, at least to me. What did you guys think of Strange Adventures? Also, the book that Adam Strange wrote is called Strange Adventures. I should also say that. Vince hates it, but Vince is going to nitpick reasons for why he doesn't want to like it because he just wants to argue about Adam Strange for 20 minutes. But this is Black Label. It's not your Adam Strange.
I was gonna, Dan. Do you want to jump in?
No, I think I'll let you
Okay.
on your rant.
I mean, yeah, the Mitch Garrett's art. It's mostly the people who are at the signings. I don't know if he was doing photo reference or what, but some of them were a little distracting. It's. I mean, he's still good. He's very talented. This is weird. I mean, obviously, I like Adam Strange. I like Booster Gold. I like these kinds of characters that are just like, you know, they do have like twists. They do have like emotional, complicated parts of their narrative, of their character. But I like this kind of, you know, basically, ironically, what like Flash Forward was saying. You know, like the DC universe should be about hope and everything like that. And, you know, high flying adventurers and things like that. So I love seeing all the Doc Shaner parts. But I think the way that this book is handled, like editorially or whatever, it makes a lot of sense. I mean, it's perfectly like, you know, edited essentially, or however you want to say it, as far as how they're splitting the duties on the book. And then this is like, it's really meta. Like,
yeah, it's really meta.
Obviously, Tom King does signings and stuff. Obviously, you know, he's a veteran, and there's like a whole like, there's a little bit of a PTSD angle, and that has to do with his daughter and just fighting. But then there's also like a kind of like post-Vietnam kind of thing, but also like we saw a little bit of the same thing for like the post-Iraq and Afghanistan, where people are kind of like, you know, distrustful or like disrespectful towards veterans, which just compounds other things that they're dealing with, while the veterans are also trying to reconcile their own actions. And then, yeah, what I gather is that you see a bit of the scene where, as they're trying to escape with his family, his Zeta beam is wearing off, so he's going to go back to Earth. And I think his daughter dies like right as that happens. I think that's the implication.
There's the implication that the Zeta beam's going off, kill his daughter. That's a possible theory. The other one is that Adam Strange's wife is it Alana?
Yeah, Alana.
Alana is the one who murdered the guy who confronted him at the book signing. That's the other theory online right now.
Yeah, she seems a little odd because she's not from Earth, but she's like very driven by all this PR stuff and is on top of everything.
Manager.
And then the part that like really twisted it for me, and I don't know how to interpret it at all, is that the book ends with where near the very end, there's a quote from Carmen Infantino.
Yeah.
And like how he designed Ran in like the original Strange Adventures run. And I'm like, I don't know how to interpret this. Like, is that King like trying to take like a modern like deconstructionist thing where it's like Ran was, stratified and was a class-based society, and so these people that Adam Strange is fighting are like in the right, and he was manipulated by his adopted Ranian family, et cetera, et cetera.
It's a theory. It's I think it's a definite interesting take. I don't want to be like, I really don't want to say like, you have to be smart to understand this book.
I'll say
there's some thinking that needs to be involved.
I will say, if I was made editor-in-chief of DC Comics right now, I would definitely have an Adam Strange book at some point. It would be nothing like this.
Well, right.
But as far as what they're going after, besides a little bit of nitpicks on Garrett's art and stuff like that, I think this is basically executed on a 10 out of 10 level.
Yeah, and this team has consistently done that on the 10 out of 10 level. This is probably going to be the Eisner-nominated book at the end of 2020.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Dan. Go ahead and tell us you don't know anything that's going on, because that's what you're going to say.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think I'll give this another issue.
Did you like the art?
Yeah, I thought the art was good. I like the classic design of the costume and everything still. I mean,
yeah, we can at least applaud that. Adam Strange is in his classic Adam Strange design and not the garbage that he was wearing in Bendis' Superman run.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's probably the highlight of this issue. But yeah, I mean, I'll give it an issue, see if it gets any better.
Can I ask you this? Do you not understand what's going on because it's one of these Tom King multi-layered 12-issue maxi series stories where you're not really going to know what it's all about until the end or like penultimate issue? Or is it just because you're unfamiliar with Adam Strange and don't really know about Adam Strange?
I mean, I would say, if anything, it's probably the Tom King type of stuff. I think that's probably what's... Because, like, there's certain things, like, if you know the character, like, for example, Vision. Like, I know his character, so, like, a series like that, like, was easy for me to jump into, kind of understand. But for something like this, yeah, I think... I don't know.
I mean, it's a mix to some extent.
It's definitely a mix.
Yeah, I think it's both, kind of.
All right. Yeah, excited to see where it goes. That's our show. What are your picks of the weeks? I'm going to go, actually, with Strange Academy.
Okay. I'm going with Daredevil.
And, I'm probably going to have to go Iron Man 2020.
Wow.
I am so surprised you did not go Daredevil. Like,
no.
I felt like this was going to be the week that both of us chose Daredevil.
No, it was a close second, but I mean, Iron Man 2020 is heating up, and especially with the death of
every issue.
What'd you say?
You just keep saying it's heating up in every issue. When is it not gonna it's got to cool down?
No, it's never gonna cool down. It's just gonna keep getting hotter and hotter. Can't wait.
And on that note, thanks for watching. Check us out next time. Go to Twitter for the retro poll. Bye.